Hope you had a good weekend. This thing in Texas is so horrific. This flooding, these little kids at camp, other obviously adults too. Camp counselors not older than 16, 17 years old. The camp director trying to save lives, and he dies. Other people trying to save lives, and they die. And not just the camp, people in the community. The flooding is really, it's shocking. You know, for those of us who don't live in and around these flood zones, absolutely shocking. But I tell you what, I've grown to really have nothing but contempt for politicians, most of them, and the media. I really have. I mean, if you're a mother or father, or grandfather, or grandmother, you think about your kids and you think about situations like that, you'd give your life to save your child. You would, or your grandchild. And people did. And they're still looking for people, and they're still looking for bodies. We're at 91. 91 dead. That's a ton of people. With a score or so still missing. Some of whom they can't identify. Well, they have found. And if you're like me, and I think most of you are, you're wondering, what were these people thinking when they went under and they figured they couldn't come back up? What a horrendous way to go. Or their bodies slammed into trees or God knows what. Now, the media jump right in. Who's to blame? And of course, it's Trump. And it's the cuts, quote unquote. It's climate change. The left never gives up. They just don't abandon this stuff. It doesn't matter how many die. It doesn't matter the circumstances. It's like the open borders with the God knows how many women have been raped, sold into sex slavery, little kids, 325,000 missing. They just keep at it. I've got a thing here from Axios where the Democrat Party base is demanding violence from Democrats. Do whatever you have to do. This is a complete disintegration of the civil society, of law and order, the rule of law. And we've been living through this year after year, day after day, with these politicians, defund the police are racist, and just this constant drumbeat. And it has an impact on a society. And the people who are beating the drums are in the media. They have these political platforms. It just boggles the mind to see this kind of tragedy and then to hear how some respond. It's like they just don't give a damn. They say they do, but they obviously don't. Power hungry. That's all it is. They're power hungry. Looking for an opportunity. Here's Joaquin Castro. He's a Democrat. He's from the San Antonio area. This is not that far from San Antonio. He's on with Dana Bash. Dana Bash is a louse. This whole CNN crew and MSNBC crew, the whole damn bunch of them. And they're not alone. They have ice water running through their veins. They're cold as cold can be. Cut 3, go.
How much do you think the changing climate is part of what we are seeing go on here? Not just what we're seeing in the pictures that we're showing on the screen, but even the flood that you talked about in San Antonio in June.
She's a complete ignoramus because this is an area that floods. It floods a lot. Maybe not to this extent. They talked about 40 years ago or so. But climate change. Hurricanes, tornadoes, floods, heat waves, cold waves. Climate change. She goes right to the talking points. Did we just spend trillions of dollars on climate change? What did that get us exactly? Nothing. It lined the pockets of left-wing organizations in left-wing politicians pretending they're running organizations. Where'd all that money go? Created massive inflation, massive debt, climate change. Anyway, go ahead.
No, I think climate change is obviously a part of it.
Of course.
These floods are happening more often in more parts of the country and really all over the world. And so we have to face that reality and be better prepared for it and combat it.
First of all, we don't know that that's true at all. I don't know that that's true at all. But even if that is true, it's not climate change. Here's Betsy Klein, a reporter on CNN today. Cut 4, go.
As we track the federal response to this flooding in its third day of recovery efforts, there are a couple of important questions to follow here. Number one is the National Weather Service. This is the agency that is responsible for the country's weather forecasting. They issued a series of alerts on Friday in those very early hours, saying there is going to be life-threatening flooding. Now, it's unclear how many people they were able to reach with those warnings. We heard in that news conference that there are some people that didn't even have cell service where they were, who were impacted. It's also the middle of the night. What's also unclear is whether cuts to this agency impacted how those warnings were disseminated.
Cuts to the agency. First of all, just as a logical matter, didn't she just say they gave out early warnings, Mr. Producer? So how would cuts to the agency have anything to do with it? Look, whoever's responsible, if anybody, it should be dealt with. I suspect people per se are not that responsible for it. I heard the lieutenant governor talking about a siren system they had thought about, but they didn't put in place. Okay, they will look back on those things. But cuts to the agency. So, Betsy Klein, which cuts to the agency are you talking about? Which cuts to the... I mean, this is it. We got Schumer here. Reuters. Schumer wants probe of National Weather Service response in Texas. He asked a government watchdog to investigate whether cuts at the National Weather Service affected the forecasting agency's response to catastrophic and deadly flooding in central Texas. He asked the Department of Commerce's acting inspector general to probe whether staffing vacancies at the National Weather Service San Antonio office contributed to delays, gaps, or diminished accuracy. So he's not interested in anything but trying to pin in something like this on cuts. Because you're not allowed to cut anything. You're not allowed to reduce anything, period. Okay. Well, over at Right Scoop, our friend Brian, New York Times blames disastrous flooding in Texas on DOJ cuts. Debunked. And I have to sit here and deal with this. I have to sit here and deal with this when people are mourning, when they don't even announce, well, they have the names of these people. It's horrendous what's taking place. Sit here and deal with this. The Associated Press, of all entities, destroyed the idea this was because of staffing. They said the National Weather Service office in New Braunfels, which delivers forecasts for Austin, San Antonio, and the surrounding areas, had extra staff on duty during the storms. Extra staff on duty. Where the office would typically have 2 forecasters on duty during clear weather, they had up to 5 on the staff. There were extra people in here that night, and that's typical in every weather service office. You staff up for an event and bring people in overtime and hold people over, said Runyon. National Weather Service did its job with warnings at least 12 hours before the devastating floods, according to meteorologist Chris Martz on X, Twitter. He says, okay, let's talk some facts. The Camp Mystic flood disaster in Texas is very unfortunate, and I hope all of the missing girls are found. The usual suspects are exploiting this tragedy to score political brownie points. Some left-wing activists are blaming this flood on climate change. Yeah, like the host on CNN. Others are blaming the deaths and missing persons on inadequate warning caused by low staffing at the National Weather Service, caused by Trump administration federal reductions in force. First of all, staff cuts played no part in this tragedy. National Weather Service issued a flood watch for Kerr County more than 12 hours ahead of the flood. They also issued a flash flood warning for Hunt and Ingram 3 hours after the Guadalupe River began to climb. There's plenty of lead time with respect to the forecast and the issuance of warnings, writes this person. The flood was caused by the remnants of Tropical Storm Barry becoming embedded in a broad mid-level trough over central Texas. These remnant lows are typically slow-moving, drop heavy rain over a large geographical area where the troposphere destabilizes. This particular one stayed fairly stationary and caused massive flooding along the Guadalupe River, something that has happened many times before. In 1987, flash flood on the same river killed 10 teenage campers from the Pot Oak Old Christian Camp, with another 33 swept away, but they survived. Why is it that this guy can find this out, but CNN can't? Camp Mystic is built on a floodplain. It is on sediment that has been deposited by hundreds, if not thousands, of floods over the last millennium. The event has nothing to do with climate change. The tragedy had nothing to do with Doge cuts. If you're someone who has exploited this catastrophe because you just don't like Trump, you need to take a serious look in the mirror. That's meteorologist Chris Martz. And so here we have a debate prior to all the bodies being found, and perhaps some survivors as well. And of course, nothing escapes racism. Nothing. You have this woman, Sadie Perkins, ex-Houston appointee, on TikTok this week. Let me tell you something. The internet is breeding evil. And TikTok is the main culprit. And I don't know what's happening with TikTok, but that damn thing needs to be sold now, and it needs to be cleaned up. And I don't want to hear about free speech and everything else. It's a private company. The company needs to clean it up, because this is crazy, between the communist Chinese and all the crap that people put on this stuff. And honestly, X, that is Twitter, Facebook, they need to be cleaned up too. I think people who call me kike over and over again on the internet should be removed. Don't you, Mr. Producer? Or worse. So here's this Sadie Perkins, cut 22, go.
I know I'm probably going to get canceled for this, but Camp Mystic is a whites-only girls' Christian camp. They don't even have a token Asian. They don't have a token black person. It is a all-white, white-only, conservative Christian camp. If you ain't white, you ain't right, you ain't getting in, you ain't going, period. And I think that context needs to be said in this matter. It's not to say that we don't want the girls to be found, whatever girls that are missing or whatever right now, but you best believe, especially in today's political climate, if this were a group of Hispanic girls, especially with them being in East Texas, it should be most likely Hispanic. If this were a group of Hispanic girls out there, this would not be getting this type of coverage that they're getting.
Yes, it would. It would be getting exactly the type of coverage it deserves, and it would. Who the hell do they think been talking about all these women sold into sex slavery? Me. Most of them are Hispanics. You don't hear about it on the left-wing sites, do you? I'm just so sick of this. I'm sick of thugs like this. Sick of it. Cut 23, go.
And y'all are over here just spewing all this hate on my page or whatever, but baby, I gives no.
Oh, shut up, you moron! You're disgusting. You disgusting. Don't give me this baby crap either. Doesn't matter what race you are, you'll always be a lowlife.